Hi, how's everybody doing today? Thanks for the introduction. We'll get started. So, like I said, today for this session, I just want to take some time and basically, I guess, luckily, follow off of the Peterson farm seed stuff because that's a lot of the stuff we'll actually be talking about today. So, three things I kind of want to go over with you guys today is the first thing is just kind of walk through what things we could possibly automate. I want you guys to kind of think about within your guys' systems, what kind of tasks you have today that might be actually affecting the productivity of your employees that you have today in a detrimental way. And then we're going to go into actually looking at the actual Microsoft Power Platform. Depending on how everybody's understanding of it, we'll touch on all the different points of it and hopefully enlighten you guys on a few new things that you may or may not seen. And then lastly, I just got some demos that I'd like to go through to basically go through and show some real life, basically examples of stuff that we've actually done and what some of our other customers or other people that are actually using the Microsoft platform have done as well. So let's get started. And basically the magic question is, what should I automate? Well, if you ask somebody, of course, everything, because the more we can automate, the more we can get done. So I usually like asking questions when we have customers that come to us and basically ask us what we can help them do. So, basically as we talked about before, what are those repetitive, time-consuming, or manual steps that your employees or business processes today that actually cause you guys headaches or problems that you guys would actually like to automate? So, and then the next thing is basically, where are you guys performing those tasks? Like Peterson Farm Seed said, is it something where we're actually going out in the field with pen and paper and trying to write everything down, or should we have an app for that? So just kind of getting you guys to think of, is it when we go and do an automation of how should we automate it? Should it actually be getting automated via a mobile app, or is this something we actually do back in the office where we use Flow, which he talked about as well, which is Power Automate? Should we be using Flow to do it and be doing everything behind the scenes and there's no user interaction? So, and then that kind of leads us to basically our third one here is that task. What other programs is it actually working with? Because that's at the end of the day, just like he was saying, is that's the problem that we usually have is we're integrating with multiple systems. Of course, we have all our Microsoft systems. Could be anything from Excel to Outlook, SharePoint, no matter what you guys are using. Or it could be, like he was talking about, your actual accounting system or another custom application that you guys actually use. So the first thing is basically to define these three things, and that gets us started down the road of, basically we've defined these three things. Now, how can we use Power Platform to actually leverage that to actually solve those problems for you guys? So, which leads us to our next slide of what Power Platform is. So I don't know if everybody knows all the stuff across here, but according to Microsoft, of course, it's a low-code platform and spans Office 365, Azure, and then, of course, other standalone apps. So I'll kind of step over here a second. But so basically this, the four listed across the top are basically what we call the pillars that actually exist within the platform. So we start off with Power Automate, which is Flow, which, like we talked about before, is kind of a way where we can do automation behind the scenes without any customer interaction, or if we want to do customer interaction, we can also do that as well. We have the second one, which is Power Apps. So basically, that's our ability to create an actual solution for our employees to use that's going to give us a user interface. So that's basically what that is. And then we have Power BI, which I'm sure a lot of you guys know what that is already, but basically just a way to take and combine the data that might not be stored in all of the places. And as he was saying, most of the data is not stored in just one easy to access location. It's actually stored across multiple places. So we want to combine that data and then define it and allow it to be analyzed to help you guys make the correct business decisions that you need to make in your businesses. So then we have the Power Virtual Agents, which I don't know how much you guys have looked at that, but that would be things like chatbots. So Microsoft does have a chatbot foundation and framework that they created. So as using the Power Platform, we get to leverage those. So it basically just gives us an ability to create chatbots so we can have it embedded into Teams or embedded into your website, and then have that be like an actual live agent. So when you come and ask questions, that it can answer them for you, hopefully trying to save you guys time and money. So, and then if we look at the slide, the bottom three across the bottom, those are basically components that Microsoft provides to us that actually interact with all four of the four pillars on top. So we basically just have data connectors, AI builder, and then Dataverse. So, and I'll walk these in more detail first, just to kind of give you guys a good definition, a little more detail. So let's hop over to the first one. Well, of course, we have Flow or Power Automate. So this is probably the first thing that I would say we would want to start with, or first thing you guys might want to look at if you're not using it already today, just for the fact that it's a great way to take and automate your actual processes today that you're doing manually. So, I mean, think of anything you're doing manually today, like if you have an employee that has to go print off a bunch of reports, save them to PDF, then copy them into email, and then go ahead and email them out to the actual customers that they do today, that's something we should automate. So this right here, I don't know if you can see all the lovely text from where you guys are sitting, but we'll just walk through this real quick. This is a simple flow, only took a couple hours to do. This is actually the one that actually runs on NCI's network every Monday. So we basically have our on-call technicians, and so of course we have a primary and a secondary person that are actually assigned to be on call for that week. And before we had somebody who would actually have to go look that up, put it in an email, and actually send it out. So in this case, we have it scheduled using a timer within the first step. So every Monday it fires, it goes out, and in our case, we're just using Excel. And in their Excel spreadsheet, it basically has a start date, end date of the week, and then who our actual people are for our primary and for our secondary. So we basically use this, which is using the data connectors, which was the first one we looked at on the previous slide. We have a data connector that allows us to go to SharePoint, and then once we go to SharePoint, we're accessing our on-call Excel spreadsheet, and then basically we're just looping through. We're just doing a loop through, and we just compose basically, just for the way we store dates within Excel, we have to just basically do a compose, basically saying, go get me, you know, the first Monday. And then we have a conditional statement of loop through every start date that exists in an Excel spreadsheet, and then find me Monday. And then once I find Monday, go get me the rest of the row of data that exists in that Excel spreadsheet, which in this case brings back the primary and secondary people. And then the last thing is, of course, if we find records, then we can actually send out the email, which actually gets sent as a person that was actually sending it before. So a lot of people don't even know this is an automated process that happens in the background. And then within the email, we can actually have it, we can type it up and dynamically pull in things like it pulls exactly from Excel and automatically puts in who is the primary contact and who is the secondary contact. So just a basic flow, but like I said, it's a great way to start with automation. So next, if we move over, we can start looking at Power Apps, and I guess the demos I'll be doing, the first two will be basically looking at this, and this is the actual first demo we'll actually look at, but Power Apps is just a way to actually create a user interface. We basically go to the cloud, and this is the development that we actually get as a user to go in, and as you can see, we can create screens and the buttons and tie into the actual galleries, which, for instance, this device ordering app is showing all of the manufacturers that make computers on the left, and then, of course, all the computers that are listed on the right. And both of those are just coming from an Excel spreadsheet. And then when we're actually doing the processing thing, we're actually gonna use Dataverse, which is, we'll talk about here in a second, but that's actual database, and this relational database in the cloud that Microsoft provides for you when you actually use a Power Platform. So the next one is Power BI, and I won't spend a ton of time here. I think a lot of you guys know what Power BI is, and of course, they just listen to them talk about it, but this is, once again, just allows us to get that visual insight where we can quickly take all of our data that might be in different locations, combine it, and put it here so we can easily see. This will be actually shown in our second demo, but we can just see things like the number of tickets volume per customer, or if we want to track if we've missed SLAs with our customers. This just gives us a great way where we can easily come in and, by using the visuals, actually see and respond to that and make our decisions from that. So, And then the last of the 4 pillars that we have within the Power Platform is virtual agents. And this is kind of a newer, more complex one. I don't know if you guys have seen this or not, but once again, from a developer standpoint, we're going to the cloud, and this is what it looks like for it. But in this case, it's basically the chatbot like I talked about before, where in this case, we're giving our customers a chance to come in and ask questions. I know you all probably can't read from the board, but on the left-hand side, like basically ask what location are you interested in, and the person responds back with Kirkland, and then the bot, of course, comes back and gives them the actual address to the store. So, and on the right side is basically where we would define what type of phrases we would accept from the bot. So as a customer types in whatever question they have, we define what we think they're going to put in, but then the cool thing is that Microsoft actually gives you the analytics to go look and see what are your customers typing in. So this is kind of a reoccurring thing with AI where we can keep coming back and refining it so we can get it to be a higher and higher percentage that whatever the user types in to the chatbot, that the chatbot will actually respond back with the right answer. But once again, if it gets to a point where it can't respond with the right answer, then we can also code it so it can say, okay, we didn't answer your question. Would you like to have us, create an actual email, send an email to one of our technicians that can answer your question for you and automate that as well. So this is the 4th pillar, and so we'll take a look at the bottom 3. These are the components that we were talking about before. So these are basically, Microsoft has went ahead and given us 300 of the data connectors. And so this is basically just tie in back to your data source. So we have everything from SQL Server, Excel, Dataverse is listed up here. We also have things like Business Central, which was just talked about. We also have Salesforce.com. So like I said, there's over 300 of these that actually exist. And then on top of that, as a developer, if your data source is not listed in these 300, then we can actually create a custom connector, which would be able to access your data via like APIs or webhooks as well. So that's another option that we actually have. So, and then the next one of our components is the AI builder, which is one of the newer things with the Power Platform. They are continuing to actually give us new things every day. So as you can see, these are kind of the 5 templates that they have defined here. So, but we'll just look at a couple. I mean, like form processing. So Microsoft has created AI. So like if you have like a tax form or an invoice or something, and you want to actually be able to have it read and then get the data out of that, that's exactly what this is for. Just like if you look at the very bottom left one, it says prediction. That's the same thing as well. So that'll tie into like our Power BI, where we've went and taken the data that exists in multiple places within your organization, bring it back into a common data source, and then we can use predictions. So like for instance, we could be looking at, for the customers that pay you, which ones pay on time, which ones pay late, and which ones pay really late, and then look at that data over 6 months or a year, and then actually use that to forecast out so you guys know who's gonna be paying on time historically based off of that data. So once again, another component that you can use that exists with the Power Platform. And then the last one, which we kind of talked about before, is Microsoft has went ahead and gave us the Microsoft Dataverse, which is basically just a database hosted in the cloud. And it is a relation to database just like SQL. And if you look at across the top here, we basically have where you can go ahead and define your table just like you would with any database. You have your relationships. And this one actually allows you to do business rules, which in my first demo, we'll kind of go over that as well, where we can kind of set up business rules that we have within our business and then have the database actually do those for us. And then of course, we have our normal things of views, forms, dashboards. And then of course, the last tab that we're looking at here is the data, which is just showing us the raw data, which in this case is just a list of employees at this point. So, but that in it encompasses all the pieces that exist for the Power Platform today. So if we go ahead and go to the next one, this is basically how do we actually leverage that? So I just wanted to try and do some demos that we've done internally here, just to kind of give you guys some ideas, because at the end of the day, that's what you guys are kind of here for, and that's what I'm here for in this session, is to try and make you guys think of automation stuff that exists today, or if there's things that are missing from your application today that we could automate or create an app around, then that's what we want to do. So let me go ahead here. And so for this, for our first demo that I'll go through, we're basically looking to create a computer procurement system that processes, and we're going to use basically a Power App for the UI that our customers and employees will actually see. Then we're going to use Power Automator Flow in the back end to do all our business logic, and then we'll use approvals, which will be done through Teams and via email. And then we'll also use Outlook and Teams data connectors, which was the first component that we talked about before, to tie all those together. And then lastly, when we're actually doing the procurement or ordering of computers, we're going to go ahead and store that back into Dataverse and store our device ordering within there. So let me log into my computer here, and we'll start off with the demo for you guys. So if you'd switch, thank you. So this is basically the environment that we get with the whole Power Platform. So as you can see here, I have all my apps that I can create. I have my Dataverse database and then flows as well. So it's all defined within one screen. In this case, we're going to go ahead and take a look at our first application, which we kind of got a sneak peek before. Once again, it knows, just because I'm signed on my computer, who I am. So of course, it's going to pull that in so we know exactly which employee is doing it. And then on the left-hand side, this is coming just from Excel, but you can see we have a list of all the different manufacturers that create all of the computers that we can actually order. So let's just pick one. And then in this case, we can use other things, like we can actually define things in red. So if we know if the price is over $1,000, we can make it red. And then we can also tell them that basically if you want to purchase this computer, that your department is going to be responsible for the 10%. And like we talked about before, we're going to use the business rule to actually calculate and then bill out that 10% as well. So we'll just go ahead and select a couple computers here. And then if I click compare, then it's basically just going to bring me into this one, where now I'm going to get a little more detail of each of the computers, and I can choose which one I actually would like to get. So I can see how much RAM it has, how much space it has, and everything else. And then we've just created a form within this Power App as well to basically take all the information. Of course, since I'm demoing, everything will come back to me as the approver and the requester. So if we just come in and say, yeah, yes, please, give me one, and then go ahead and submit our device here, then this should kick off the process in the background. And then, of course, once it's went and actually sent the request, then as a developer, we can code up basically whatever we want to send back to the user, basically telling them that, yep, we did get your submission. Here's exactly what you guys asked for. And it has the comments and everything else. And so now if I go over to Flow, I should actually be getting a request here through Flow, which I don't know how much you guys use Teams in here, but we can actually use the Teams flow within here to actually do our approval systems. So, and of course, it takes a little bit to get there, but you'll see now that I actually get an actual approvals request with all the exact detail in there. You can see, I don't know if you guys can see or not from the back of the room, but it actually has the department contribution for this device is $130. So that's what the approver would look at to know that, hey, if I say yes to this, that's what I'm going to actually have to pay. It gives me all the information about who basically sent it, and of course approves it, and then gives them, basically a comment section where they can say, sure, let's give it to you, and actually go ahead and approve it. And so within Teams, it handles all that for you. And so if you work heavily in Teams, we could do it that way, or we could actually do it via Outlook as well. So I'll switch over to my Outlook, and I should have gotten the exact same thing sent to me via email. So, and it's set right now that whichever one you respond to first, it's going to automatically take over. So if I actually tried clicking on this, then it would actually tell me that it's already been done. And then the other thing is we have a flow in the background that's going through, and it's saying, okay, we went ahead and approved it. Now I'm going to go back and I'm actually tell the requester that not only did it get approved, we also have some logic in our back end, which we're talking about those business rules, where if I know, like for this computer, that historically it's been a 2-week lead time, that actually takes me 2 weeks to get it to the customer, then I can include that detail in here in the email. So as the requester, I get it back saying that, yep, everything worked, and I should expect to get my laptop in 2 weeks. So now if we go back to here, and we'll close this for now, and we'll hop over to, now when I create the app, we have two different things. We have the user interface that we walk through. So when we create an app, we can actually have things be model or data-driven or a Canvas app. So the first one I just demoed was the Canvas app. This is our model-driven one, and this is actually our device order tables that I talked about. So this is actually stored in the cloud, and this keeps track of all the devices that have been ordered, the time, and like I said, you guys could define any other columns that you guys wanted to see. But just wanted to show you that we can have two different actual things. This is a model-driven Power App, where the other one we looked at was a Canvas. So just totally, once again, just wanted to try and give you guys some ideas of what we could do going forward. So, and then the second thing is, I guess we can stay here. Can you switch me back to my deck, please? Thanks. So if we switch over to the next one, in the next demo, basically, this is going to go a little more complex than the one we just looked at before. So this is, our requirements here would be that we want to go ahead and create a servicing ticket one with separate interfaces for our different users that actually exist. So in this case, we want to have a separate interface for our technicians, our dispatchers, and our managers. And once again, we'll be creating that UI via Power Apps. And then we want to use Outlook and Team data connectors. And we also want to have Power BI, because for our managers, we want to be able to give them data so they can make their decisions off of our ticketing system. And then lastly, this time, just to kind of change it up, instead of using Dataverse, we'll actually be using SharePoint as our database. So we'll go ahead, and if you want to flip me back, we'll hop over and I can demo that for you guys as well too. All right. So this is the ticketing system that I created. So basically, for requirements, just since I'm demoing, I have a login screen. You wouldn't have to have this, but this allows us to log into all three different things for my demo. So we'll start by looking at, if I log in as the actual dispatcher itself, you'll see that this is the interface. So I wanted to try and create more or less a dashboard. So as the dispatcher comes in, they can filter what they actually want to see in here. So like if we want to say, I want to see all the new tickets, and I want to look at all the tickets that exist for service, and I want to look at everything that's medium priority, and I want to look at everything that's assigned to me. Then it'll filter the list for us automatically. So, and then as a dispatcher, we have basically our three different things. We can create a ticket, which if we click on that, then we're going to auto increment the ticket number. We're going to allow the user to pick, like we'll say services. We'll say that we want to go ahead and say medium priority. We can also default statuses in like this, so you'll actually see that we're defaulting new in. And in this case, I'll just assign it to me, and we'll say update Power App for this. And then this gives the dispatcher kind of a thing so we can track actual versus budgeted time. So if our dispatcher knows that I think it'll actually take 2 hours for this to be done, we can track it in here. Our create data is auto actually populated. So, and then we can pick whichever customer we're going to assign it to. And then as you can see, this is actually pulling in from a total different list in SharePoint, but this gives us basically the customer address, who the contact is, and basically their email and phone. So this should give me the ability to do it. So if I say save, once again, this will go ahead and save it out to SharePoint, let our dispatcher know that they actually was able to create the ticket. And then if we come back in here, we should be able to see the new ticket that we just created for DAX. So if we go down here, then the next task would actually be do scheduling. And this is kind of the thing where we talked about the data connectors and the fact that it's nice that everything integrates and it's all Microsoft. So as you can see, it's already pulling in the scheduled ticket. It knows that I'm the person that's assigned to it. It knows my email. We actually get a desired time range. So this is where if it was after hours, we could go ahead and switch that up, but we'll just leave it at 8 to 5 now. And like I said before, we estimated like it's gonna take 2 hours. And since I'm probably a little busy today, we'll go ahead and we'll say that we want to see if I'm available to do it tomorrow. So update that to the 29th and then say find available times. So this is using the actual data connectors to go out, look at my actual calendar and see what blocks of time that actually exist for me in my calendar. So if I say, yeah, great, let's schedule it for 2 in the afternoon and say schedule ticket, then that'll go off and create it, update SharePoint, everything else. And now if I switch back over to my Outlook calendar and switch over tomorrow, you'll see that sure enough, scheduled that time for me as a technician that I need to go ahead and access that and contact that customer, the work that we've promised them that we do for them. So that is basically the layout that we have for our dispatcher. So I'm gonna just log off here quick, and we'll just log in as the other users as well. So we'll just take a look at the technician view. And this is again where we can customize and create different dashboards. So this one has a little different look and feel, more of a what tickets I have, what statuses they're in. I can click on them, it'll filter my list. I can edit the ticket as I go through and complete it, everything else. So pretty typical in a ticketing system, so I won't spend a ton of time here. So we'll log off, and then one of the more interesting ones is we're also supposed to go ahead and create a manager page as well. So if we log in as the manager, you'll actually see they get a similar dashboard as well across here, where they can actually go through, and if they want to look at the in-progress tickets, it'll update, or anything that's on hold, it'll update. And then what we've done is we've taken that Power BI that we've talked about that allows that manager to make those decisions. We've actually embedded that into the actual Power App itself. So if I click on View Power BI, it's going to take a few seconds here, but we'll actually go out and we'll call out to this is actually published on the Power BI in the cloud, and it'll actually connect to that and pull that back down. So then I actually get to see all the dashboards that have been created for the manager and per what they requested from us. So just like Peterson Farm Seeds, we can actually see where our customers are. Of course, bigger circles are showing us where more of our customers are. We can start looking at like the average diff between hours of scheduled and actual hours to actually see where we're actually sitting. And then we have our other stuff too, if we want to start looking if we've met or missed SLAs by our customer or by our technician. We can create multiple dashboards and embed them in here as well, just so any information we need to do, we can have it all surfaced within the actual Power App itself. And then we also can let them too go back and actually look at the more of what I would call the counting view of what actually happened. And now, of course, we have our filters right or on this side, so we can filter by what actual company we want to do and who was assigned to and everything else to get that detailed list back to see, okay, how long did it actually take them? What did they actually do? And get that ticket information out there. So once again, this is just one of the other demos I just wanted to show you guys in hopes of trying to let you guys see kind of the stuff that we've done internally. And then the other thing is, I don't know how much everybody does with Teams, but like we can actually embed the actual app itself into Teams. So like for instance, if you guys spend most of your time in Teams and everywhere else, we can put that app right here so I can access it and run everything via Teams. I know that Peterson Seed said that that's kind of where they were moving to, is having everything actually run in Teams. So just another option that you can actually do within the Power Platform. So the only other thing I wanted to show you is, of course, we didn't do this, but we talked about the Power Virtual Agents, but the actual Dolphins actually have, this is actually using the Microsoft Power Platform today. So, you know, if I want to come in here and say, you know, when is the next Dolphins game? It pulls up that information for me. You know, you can all see that back here or not, but it's pretty cool that the chatbot knows exactly. But like I said, this is one of those things where we can define what we think the question should be asked and then just keep redefining it to increase the actual return rate. Now, the Dolphins claim they're at like about a 95% return rate. So they've actually spent some time to go through. But like this, I could go through and book the tickets right through the actual agent itself, saving time and money of actually having a live person to answer these questions. So if you want to just switch me back over, please. So that ends the demos I had planned for today. So I guess we just kind of leaves us with next steps. So I guess as far as next steps go from the NCI perspective is if there are things today that if you guys don't have a staff or whatever to actually do it, or if you have questions you'd like to bring to us, I'd ask you guys to first just start talking to our actual sales reps, and then we'll probably get me involved in a call with you guys so we can sit down and actually define those tasks that you guys have in your business today, and then come up with solutions for you guys of how we can possibly help you guys get to more process automation or create applications that you guys can use within your business to basically help your productivity. So that's all I had for today. So I guess at this point, I will open it up to questions if anybody has anything.
Curious,
Yep.
Anybody in the room, I guess. I'm curious to see how people are using it. What are some examples of good use cases for the virtual agent? It's a relatively new thing that, I know some people are using it for support. I have a hard time with the creativity side of figuring out where it would be beneficial.
Yep. Well, and that's why I wanted to kind of demo it, because like you said, it is one of those newer things. And like I said, if you go out to Microsoft's site, they're going to have multiple different examples, but the Dolphins is a really good one. Of course, they have thousands and thousands of people with requests coming in every day. So, but it's basically anything, like even within teams, if you wanted to do it internally. So like if you have a new hire that comes on board and they have questions, like if they want to go like, what's my manager's cell phone number, or what's my new manager's email, or what tasks do I have to do to actually get through my onboarding process. Those are things where we could create the virtual agent and then program it to actually answer those questions for you, just to help that person come on with the onboarding process. So, I mean, it's just kind of like the Power Apps. You're basically given a blank canvas. So it's kind of whatever we can think of as far as a solution to the problem that you guys have. But I guess my question back would be, like, what things today are problems, and then would this be a good fit? That's the main thing, is we have, basically the 4 different pillars and then the 3 components on the bottom. So the main thing for us is just defining what the issue is, or what needs to be automated, or what we're trying to achieve, and then look at the Power Platform to see how it can actually interact and what's the best solution for you. So. And I mean, there's tons of them out there. I talk to customers every day, and it's like each customer brings up something. I'm like, why didn't I think of that? So, I mean, you guys.
That's why I was asking the question, right? Because for us to think about all the options, I'm curious to see if anybody's using it.
But I would agree with you with the support thing. I've been in support, and yeah, you want to actually talk to a live person, and that live person better have some good technical knowledge to be able to say, oh, you're running into this area? Yeah, I saw that 2 weeks ago, and here's exactly what we need to do, because that's what you want to hear when you're talking to support. You don't want to be sitting there typing with a chat bot. Ordering tickets for the Dolphins, yeah, you could probably get away with that, but not support.
I think HR is a good target, even for straightforward questions like how much PTO do I have?
Yeah.
Or, where's our policy documents? Can I get the policy document in front of me, right? So putting bots like that into teams, I think is a good target, good thing to talk about.
We're looking at, so we're going to roll out the Power Apps portal in the spring. We're looking at to use it as a FAQ for our end user. So how do I enter an order in kind of with the video or whatever it may be? How do we get to this documentation? That's what we're looking at. And then if they run into it at the end, get a call. I mean, it's not going to be a live person at all. It's just going to be quick FAQs for us.
One way I'd like to use it is we're dealing with supply chain train wrecked everywhere. We have customers, I spend 15-20% of my every day going to our procurement people saying, how far off is this? We have days, it's in silo. We can use a chat bot ideally to say, what's the ETA on set equipment on sales order number, right? I think that would be a good way for us to use it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Did you have another question other than just to respond back? I saw you raise your hand, so I figured I'd ask.
Yeah, are you guys looking at the portal side of it?
So that's, we're looking at basically all of it. It's basically, when we talk to you guys, it's like, what is your problem? And then looking to see what that problem is. How can we solve it? And like you said, portals, so when we do an actual Power App, just like you're talking about, there's 3 different ways. You can do the Canvas app, which I demoed today. We can do the model-driven, which is basically database form entry stuff. And then what you're talking about is actual portal, which allows you to have external and internal users access that portal. And just like it used to be your customer-facing site. And then, like you said, it would be a good use to do the actual virtual agent. So, even like if you had something where if they're a first-time visitor and they're asking it questions, maybe we ask them back for their information, and then we actually send that to the correct salesperson or whoever needs to contact them to get that ball rolling so they can just easily come in, enter in one place. Just like if I would have kept going through the demo for the Dolphins, it says, okay, you want to buy tickets, what's your first name, what's your last name, how do you want to pay for said tickets, and it walks you through the whole ticket purchase process, and then your tickets are waiting for you at will call or sent to your phone or whichever way you guys want. So it's a good point. Any other questions from anybody else in the room? Yep, go ahead.
The AI chatbot, how robust is the logic? How detailed do you have to get when you're setting up your criteria for it?
so that's the thing with this. I mean, it's supposed to be low code, so we're trying to cut down on that. So Microsoft has actually created the framework for you. So, and like I said, it gives you the actual live insights back. So you basically have to decide what you want the bot to do. So like for instance, in the one that I showed, it's basically like location, where are all my stores at? It could look to see if you're on a device that gives back the GPS, then we could say, okay, you're in, at least in North Dakota or Fargo, and then show all the local stores. So, and then the cool thing is once you create it, put it out there, I mean, we can internally test it where we just start asking it random questions and see how it responds back to that. But they actually have a sites page where you can go to and then see what questions are your customers asking, because at the end of the day, that's what you really want to answer. And then it's more or less just going back into the development side and updating those things. And then as we go and as the longer it's actually out there in the live, the more questions we can put in, the more paraphrases we can put in. But it's pretty straightforward. I mean, even like with the Power Apps, if you're creating the UI, I mean, there is still coding that you have to do and development things you have to understand, but I mean, it's a lot quicker way to take a project that you say with custom development might take like a couple months, we could do it in a couple weeks. So that's why we're going after it, and so hopefully that answers your question. Anybody else have any other questions in the room? Okay. Well, if no one has any other questions, thanks for taking the time to attend my session, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks.